लाइट ठीक है मेरी?
अब आप चले गए.
And we're live.
Well,
We're live, my
well,
friends.
well.
We are live.
Those are the three words that Shane wanted me, or Harshit wanted me to use. I have used them. And I'd like to begin with our good
Harshit,
friend
not me.
Shane Dyers, the biggest England supporter that there is on this planet. What are your thoughts?
Not the cricket team. Top spot. No. No. Biggest supporter? No. I will take offense to that. I'm an Indian supporter first and foremost.
Well,
But
second
I will
team,
say
yeah.
that
Of
yeah,
course, all
top
our
spot.
team, first team is in
Ah,
India only. After that, I'm talking.
hmm. Yeah. So I mean, see, let's see. When it comes down to this, I think it's not only World Cup over. I think it's end of an era for this side. They had their run. But I think they need to refresh, not just in terms of talent, because obviously there are issues with the talent in terms of the key players who were very important to them, winning the World Cups in 2019, 22, not actually performing up to scratch here, but also ideas. Because again, in hindsight, and Harshit and I were discussing this when watching the match, the way it is that Wood and Atkinson were batting, if that had to be your top order batting that way sensibly and picking and choosing which bowlers to attack, you might have actually made a match out of this, if nothing else. But I think they're so at this point wedded to this idea that we have to be aggressive come what may, which is funny because I thought they'd let go of that in the T20 World Cup last year, wherein they played some matches very attritionally, looked to win rather than just be aggressive for the sake of being aggressive. Don't know whether it was scoreboard pressure, whether it's in fact that mentality they have that no, we have to be aggressive, baseball, mott ball, whatever it is you want to call it. Whatever it may be, it's an idea that needs refreshing. You maybe need to go back to the drawing board like they did in 2015, redraw a few of those ideas and start afresh.
I would want to know because if you remember yesterday, Harshit wasn't around. We were all picking our top four. I had
Hmm.
eliminated England even before this game. I had said England not making it. And I think now, I mean, I was already sure they're not going to make it. Now, though, I'm
Yeah.
100% sure. So they've lost three games.
Hmm.
Technically, mathematically, they can lose another one and still make it. Technically, mathematically. But the
Yeah.
loss that they've had now, which, by the way, they avoided the biggest loss in the history of ODI cricket for which they needed 83 runs. They went past it. So it's not the biggest loss in the history of ODI cricket, but this still happens to be the biggest loss in the history of England cricket, if I'm not mistaken. So the
Hmm.
biggest loss that England have had in an ODI. What that does is not only has it now led to three defeats, and technically six is what you're looking at. So you could. I said maybe four, and then wait for other results, and five wins takes you there. But I think pretty much done. If you're not getting six wins, especially with the kind of gulf that we'll have, India, New Zealand moving up, and maybe who knows, Australia might join them. Then the gulf that comes for them to qualify, on the fourth spot may look tough. And South Africa also will be pulling away now with this particular win that they've had. So I think it's tough. They're going to be looking at not finishing in the bottom of the table. That's going to be there. So for me, I'd said it earlier, England not making it top four. This result is now pretty much sealed it for me. But I'd love to know from Harshit and Shane if you think they still have a chance or it's done, dusted, baba, bye bye, tata for England in this World Cup.
See,
I
I
think it's
mean, you can
curtains.
never say never. Sorry, Harshit, you go first.
Go on, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So no, never say never when it comes to making the semis. But I think even if they do, they're not winning the World Cup. And that's also an outside chance I'm giving them because I think
Oh, you
now
think they're
South
making it
Africa.
tougher?
No, I think South Africa now are the favorites to make it in that place. Because I think the main thing which we were talking about when I had picked out or when I was saying was that I didn't have that much faith in South Africa's bowlers. Today, one of those bowlers who hadn't been in form, and Marco Jansen, him roaring back into form, was doing exactly what it is we know he can do best, getting that new ball to talk and talk a lot. And I think if he can maintain that, obviously, to be fair, some of it is conditional. We do know in Mumbai early on the ball does tend to swing around. Even England's bowlers were getting some movement early on. But I think if he can continue this kind of form, take that confidence forward, then I think that bowling lineup looks a lot better. And their batsmen obviously are in phenomenal form. So I think now South Africa would definitely be that team who would be favorites for that top four spot, unless they do what they always do and then somehow give Pakistan an in. But I think now South Africa are favorites.
Mohit,
Well, right now, right now, I think England would be more concerned about this change in identity which the world is seeing right now, because I don't think this is what the world conceived of England as. Their capitulation, by the way, for me, makes it clear that they're not making it to the semis. I'm convinced they're yet to play India in 7 days' time from now. It won't be an easy one either for England. And from here, they are ninth, by the way, now. What this defeat means for them is they are ninth on the table. And for a team that were looked at, as the favorites to bring home the title, they, I think, are looking at a serious early exit, even mathematically. That's how worried I am now, because I don't see a lot changing with England, because you brought in Gus, you Reece Topley now has an injury scare of sorts. Mark Wood has been a better batter than a bowler, and that just sums up the story for
No,
you as
I
far
want
as.
to know this. I want to know this, and let Shane answer this, because he's been a backer of the English team. How the fact that they made so many changes today, dropping those all rounders, meant even before this game started that they'd press the panic button, that they
Yeah.
knew that it's almost done and dusted. And why would you do that? I mean, you're defending champions. That itself, for me, at that situation, told me, see, in a game, you take a lot, and you win games when you go in with a lot of confidence, irrespective of the personnel. And often this is spoken about in sport. There is a mindset that you come with. It's often 11 versus 11. All of them play at the international level, so there's not much to choose. It's always the mindset, the confidence, the thought process, the planning that you've come with. You came here with a plan, you came with a thought process, you came with the personnel, you knew which way you want to go. Fine, it didn't work for a couple of games. You made a sea change, like completely change the complex of your team, or the template that you thought you'll play with, all of that told me they're panicking. As soon as that happens, what that does is, even the guys who are going to get runs on a different situation, or even in a tough situation, they're going to lose confidence. That itself, when they did that, so many changes, was telling me, no, they're not a confident team. They're not a team that believe in themselves. They're not a team that can go too far.
No, I do agree. I mean, although I will say this also, there's a bit of a caveat there in the sense that I think Wokes and Curran were the two players they dropped, the two all rounders, and neither of them were doing much. So if you had to then say,
Livingston,
for instance,
Livingston. What about Livingston
Livingston,
also?
yeah, Livingston was a tricky one. Livingston, I agree, was a tricky one because I for sure thought they would drop Brook if they wanted to bring in Stokes. I thought Brook would have been the most obvious one because Livingston gives you that bowling option. That was confusing. I wasn't very surprised when they dropped Woke. Although, actually, I was less surprised in that regard. I thought Karan was the first to go because he was unfortunately giving me nothing. I thought they'd stick with Wokes because with the new ball, he still at times can get you swing. And truth be told, considering the way that you saw Jansen making the ball sing and Topley, if I'm Chris Wokes, I'm feeling a little hard done by saying that, okay, this would have been probably the best conditions for me to get that new ball to stock. And I'm on the bench. Karan, I was okay with, but yeah, I think they knew that they needed to fit in Stokes and they wanted to drop, let's say, Karan. Thereafter, it just became a bit of a hodgepodge. And I do agree. I think it would have thrown their plans awry because even before, I remember mentioning when Harshit and I were on the preview, and I said they've compromised their batting, which means you're playing with seven batters because you brought in Gus Atkinson, remember? Now, of course, I know that the logic they gave was that you thought maybe there'd be extra assistance for pacers here. There was none of that. You had a very true wicket. And Atkinson, don't think he had a bad game, but again, the problem was it compromised their batting. And thereafter, their template works solely with the fact that they have batting depth. You compromise that depth, and that approach is halfway already done. So yeah, I think muddled thinking was what led to their downfall more so than anything else. If this had to be the England of 2019, they would have maybe not got 400. They would have gotten to 340, 350 and gotten all out. But it wouldn't have been a big loss.
I when I was analyzing England's chances, and that's why I didn't pick them in the top four on our Hindi platform Sports Tag. So we're doing SWOT analysis of England, and when I was looking at their why I think that they will not win this World Cup, that was a question. So I gave a few cricketing logic, and I'm reminded of that. I gave another logic where I said, देखो, एक चीज तो होगी, इनको जेसन रॉय की हाई लगेगी. You know, he is going to be sending them all the bad luck because they persisted with him. Last moment dropped him. We know that he was not too happy with it, refused to play that Ireland series, and that again, as I'm saying, one mindset of making so many changes here. That same mindset. Jason Roy, a proven performer, I think averages more than 50 with a great strike rate. And each team in the World Cup says we need to go with experienced players. Yes, youngsters are good, and we'll bet on them for the future. But in a World Cup, I'm giving you Pakistan's example. When they needed to make a change for Naseem Shah, they could have gone with a youngster, but they said no,
Hassan.
let's go with Hassan Ali, and he's done well for them. Because they
India
brought
did
in that
that as well.
experience.
India also did that. You went in with somebody who had played
Ashwin.
only 4 matches in the last 4 years.
And what England did was you dropped an experienced guy who, by the way, was doing good in all of that, had a bit of a rough patch in the middle. You dropped him and you went with someone like a Harry Brook who I saw in the IPL with all the, big talk about Harry Brook, almost had apart from that one outstanding knock where he got 100, other than that, he failed in pretty much every other inning played. Clearly, I'm not blaming him. I'm saying he's a youngster, not so used to Indian conditions, coming from England, more used to those conditions. It'll take him time to get used to it. Maybe he goes on to become a future great for England. I don't know. But in a World Cup, you won't do that. Who would have done well here? Jason Roy, that experience, or how do you bat and all of that. So that time I had said कि Jason Roy की high लगेगी. Exactly वो हुआ, high लगेगी. That is one thought I had. And the other thought, which I want you guys to talk. I mean, it will be I know Ben Stokes didn't have a great day, but he'll be sitting and he must be thinking to himself, यार इस चीज के लिए मैं retirement वापस नहीं. I took my retirement away for this, to come here and be part of this team. And for the World Cup to finish like this, I should have stayed retired. I shouldn't have hurt anyone and come back from my retirement.
Yeah, I mean, if he actually had to stay retired, then his winning or his crowning moment would have been leading his team to their first ever World Cup title with a crunch knock, which at one point it did look like they had lost. But the other thing, and by the way, I'll add to that point of Jason Roy, is that them dropping Roy actually meant that they had to make Malan a makeshift opener. Remember, Malan is normally a 3 or 4. So now taking nothing away from him, he did very well. But I think normally what worked so well for England last time around was that they had 2 very aggressive batters up top. So Roy and Bairstow was that combination. This time they dropped Roy. Bairstow was in terrible form and it continued today. And well, that ended up costing them because what they used to do, what they were very good at, neither of them would ever get like big hundreds or anything. But 50, 60, 70 very quick fire runs, then set a platform for the rest of them. I think Malan would have been better serviced in that middle order where England looked lost more often than not, and you could have done without a Brook and maybe without a Stokes also. I don't think Stokes was necessary in this team. Poor guy has compromised what was a fairy tale ODI ending to be a part of this. A humiliation.
Yeah. It's all helter skelter for England at the moment. But if I was to do a cricketing analysis on why I think and why I wasn't picking England, and I just tell you, there was a thought process behind it. This, Ben Stokes and Jason Roy ki high and all of that. Okay, fine, in good humor. But the reason is, and I'll tell you, it's exactly the opposite of what India does, is what England was doing. Why is it that India recently in T20 cricket haven't done well? That's because they've tried to look at T20 cricket like one-day cricket. And that's what we blame them for. We've said that you've not respected the T20 format and you've not tried to play T20 cricket like how it's used to be. You've just taken white ball as in one-day players and said, okay, this is one-day cricket, this is white ball cricket, we'll just play it in the T20 way. That's where India has been found wanting and they've been behind the curve. I think that's the same problem that England suffer from. They are trying to play ODI cricket as an extension of T20 cricket. And that's why I'll take you back to that statement that Butler made at the captain's meeting right at the start of the World Cup. And we spoke about it. And sometimes people say you say it in hindsight and then you all want to be hindsight expert. Go back and check our videos. At that time, very critical of what Josh Butler said. But Josh Butler came and said, somebody said, you're defending champions. He said, don't use the word defending for me. We are attacking champions. That's how we play. We play attacking cricket. There's not a single defensive bone in our body. He said it with a lot of pride. He said it as if, this was the way it is. And you're insulting them by saying defending. Hello, by the way, I would want to point out, defense is not a derogatory term in cricket. I've often said that a good batsman and a great batsman, everyone can play shots. A good batsman and a great batsman, the biggest difference is the defense. If you have a great defense, you can do very, very, very well in international cricket. If you don't have a great defense, if you could just throw the bat at the ball, many players can do it. Great defense is what differentiates. So I'm saying defense is not a bad word, but somehow this England mentality, which we criticize in test matches as well sometimes, it's not wrong to be aggressive. It's not wrong to play in a certain way and give a statement of sort. But then you have to respect the format. You have to play to the situation. You have to be smart. And this is where England, they treated ODI cricket as an extension of T20 cricket and said, hey, we'll play, just so we play T20 cricket, we'll keep playing ODI cricket like that. No, you disrespected this format. You did not play ODI cricket as an ODI cricket team. And this is why India does well here. They treat ODI cricket as ODI cricket is meant to be treated or deserves to be treated. You play ODI cricket one way, where you have to find the right balance between attack and defense. There are overs where you rotate strikes, you be sensible, you're pragmatic, you do all of that, and that's why you succeed. That's what India does. That's what good ODI teams do. England, there's baseball in Test cricket, T20 champions, ODI champions, so they took it to another level. And I think they paid a price for it. Had they played it sensibly, I don't think there were any shortage or dearth of talent or capability in the lineup that they got here. Just the way you played cricket. And I think they're paying a big price for that now.
2 points I want to make here. One, of course, just taking it off from where Nikhil, you mentioned that defense isn't a bad approach. Let's put that to football as well. You say the defense is the best form of attack, and somebody like a Jose Mourinho.
Ask the Chelsea fan. Ask the Chelsea fan.
Exactly. Exactly. I was coming to Shane on
the thing is a boring football.
Of how parking the bus is just construed negatively, let's say, or way too defensive an approach. But when it wins you the Champions League or wins you the Premier League for that matter, time after time, you don't complain. Simple as that. You got to know when to park the bus. Again, that logic applies to cricket as well. You got to know when to take your chances. And that leads me into the second point that I want to make, and how not just from, as one of you mentioned, that, that selection that they made, the team that they went in with, a couple of changes being made, again, contrary to the whole philosophy that this team has operated with all these couple of years, over all these years, they went away from that. 1, 2 was the fact that it reflects. So that was, first indications of haste. The second, for me, being the fact that, the shot making. If Gus Atkinson and Mark Wood can give you so many runs batting, very, they weren't doing anything extraordinary. They weren't dancing down the track. They were just staying in their crease and playing through the line. If your number 9 and number 10 can do that, clearly the haste, the fact that you didn't know when exactly to, put the foot on the gas and just go after every ball, that was when, England were again being found guilty of being extra hasty. You didn't have to be so hasty. Again, could have been calculated in your approach of this mammoth chase. But then had they waited for their time, if your number 9 and number 10 can get you about 71, 72 runs, then clearly the top order missed something over there.
Just going to take a few comments now. Shubham Garg says that England batting hit their bowling in the last 6-7 years. With batter out of form, their bowling is bearing the brunt. With regularly conceding 350 plus runs in last 6-7 years, they need to develop skillful bowlers. But I thought they got skillful bowlers.
Yeah.
A Karan is a skillful bowler. We've seen it do it. Just didn't pay off for him. Wood is a skillful bowler. Vokes is a skillful bowler. I think the conditions also kind of didn't work for them. Though Karan is pretty used to using these conditions and doing well. We've seen it in the IPL. Again, not extending that, but I'm just saying is a smart, sharp white ball bowler too.
No, I mean, someone else was also mentioning that there's this one comment here. I'm trying to figure out what it is. At Sarat Chandra Yadamarti saying that, they got lucky in 2019. I don't think so, because back then, if you look at the bowling they had, you had a Chris Wokes doing well in the, power plays. Then you'd have Archer, Wood, who could bowl pretty much anywhere. You also had a very attacking spin option in Adil Rashid, who was doing well. You'd sometimes use Moeen as a second spinner. And lest we forget Liam Plunkett, who came back from absolutely out of nowhere to be an absolute workhorse, middle overs, would soak up the runs, allow the likes of Archer and Wood to be effective. It was a very effective bowling lineup. I don't think it was a bad bowling lineup. It worked in those conditions. That being said, I think they were expecting more from someone like Sam Curran, his form is pretty much fallen off a cliff since last year's World Cup, by the way. That World Cup got him a big fat IPL contract, but did zilch for his form. So his form went off. I think Wokes lost form at the worst time period, and the rest of the bowling has just struggled. Of course, they're also missing Archer, but they've been missing Archer for 2 years now.
Yeah, he may still join them, but
At this point,
too little,
yeah.
too late. Yeah.
Consolation.
Bambulanath Cricket says India will lose tomorrow. Hello, for that you need to check out our preview. We just did it a short while ago. Good, do check that out. Lots of insights on India, New Zealand preview there. But just taking a few more comments. Siddharth says tough next 3 weeks for stars like Butler, Stokes, Root, knowing they ain't there in the fray, which is a valid comment. We've got someone called Mithokozisi. He's saying, I'm still learning cricket. Can someone please explain to me why the match ended after 9 wickets and not 10? That's because the final batter was injured, and that is why he didn't come out to bat. So had he been fit, then he would have come out. Because of injury, he did not, which is why it ended early. Shubham says, Nikhil sir, Karan is skillful in Australia around with big boundaries. He got hammered in IPL this year. Wokes, Karan, Billy can't bowl on Indian ground, which is also true. Siddharth wants to know, can England qualify from here? Siddharth Bhatt, we've answered that question right at the start of the video. So do go back there and check that out. Abhishek says England now needs to win all the matches with some big margin. They need to just save the wickets for the first 5 overs. But I don't know. We've already said too little, too late. So I don't know. But any thoughts before we wind up, Harshit, Shane?
Yeah, just a confirmation I see from the broadcaster, Nikhil. There's something that you'd mentioned right at the start as well. So 229 runs is the heaviest, not just the World Cup defeat, but ODI defeat for England.
Yeah. Shane, final word. Come on. Don't be so sad. It's okay. England do well in football.
Do they? Really? They last won the World Cup before I was born. Well before I was born. So no, last thoughts. Look, I think it's definitely a time now for them to kind of take stock, say, look, whatever it is we've been doing, fine, well and good. Won you 2 World Cups. Now the rest of the world is kind of catching up, and maybe you need fresher ideas, and maybe actually reassess your talent pool as well. I think that's what they need to do, because the World Cup is pretty much done and dusted. Whatever they do from here, even if they make the semis, long shot, don't think they're doing anything beyond that.
Just the one thought that comes to my mind right now, because for the last 8 to 10 months, everyone's been going gaga. Every team, the English team in particular has been spoken so highly of that other teams around have been trying to ape them. Now what do they do?
Play their own style.
Teams are not aping them. India is not aping England. India didn't come out and say, we are, don't say defending, we are only aggressive. They didn't do any of that.
See, I would say India only partly are. But that's also got to do with the fact that until, let's say, the last couple of months, your top order wasn't consistent. That's also the reason why India have been stuck on having somebody to bat at number 8.
Yep, a few more comments. Suraj Padmanabhan says, South Africa, I feel, have a lot of confidence to win where they bat first. So they are still the favorite considering they haven't chased in many matches. By the way, a word on South Africa. We've often said that they're a strong batting lineup. They showed today Markram is outstanding. Klaasen. Marco Jansen, we saw him first time in a test match. At that time, I knew he's going to be a good batter. So we know that he can really bat well. So they do have a good batting lineup. It's the bowling that hadn't come to the party. They have today. The only problem is South Africa, which I predicted well in advance before they had that big upset versus the Netherlands, is that they are never too far away from a collapse. Again, not in hindsight. We said it much before. And they
you can use a different keyword there, really, not collapse.
Okay, use the C word. Choke.
Never too far from that.
Yeah. That's the only reason. Otherwise, they're a fantastic team. You mentioned it. I picked them in my top 4. The only thing is, I think on days they'll have these major upsets. Maybe on a knockout again, have a bad day and then they don't win from there. That unpredictable. I think that's what they're going to be, which is why New Zealand, India, because of the consistency that they're showing up, I put them higher up. Otherwise, South Africa also very good on that.
And saying that just going forward, if teams are looking for solutions to counter South Africa, I'd just say just try adding some orange to your stripes, because maybe that's the only way you sort of psych them out. Not worried about India, because India have already done that. They're training in orange kits.
Wow. Wow. That game is going to be in Eden. Will be a good game. If it's a good sporting pitch, be a good game. India, England also in Lucknow. But India, New Zealand is the game. We've done a preview on that. Keep saying it again and again. Check that out. Shall we?
Yes.
Good night. Take care. See you tomorrow. Let's make it a super Sunday. You know where you have to come to make your super Sunday. What I'm saying is bring your popcorn, bring your soft drink, bring whatever you want, sit in front of the TV and watch the game. But before you watch the game, come to Sports Today. When there is a break, come to Sports Today. When the game is ended, come to Sports Today, because we'll be all buddies, right? Chatting, take your questions, answer. No holds barred discussion. That's what you get here. So see you tomorrow then. From Shane, Harshit, and I, bye bye. Take care. Good night. Vanakkam. So that we don't miss it out.
Nandri in that case.